Who's still here from the previous session? Oh, wow. That's always good, Anna. If they stay around, then we've done something right. So thanks a lot for being here. This panel discussion is going to be about diversity in tech. And I'm definitely loud enough for this, so we'll see as soon as we go down here. So just, I definitely think they got the loudest woman in tech to come and be a moderator. I don't know how this happened. Anyway, the one who has most to say now has to ask questions. But I'm Tracy from Schyff. Some of you have met me in the previous panel, so I have my own company, MVP, Officer 365, Servers and Services. Love what I do, got an incredible passion for people and for what I achieve every day. And I'm going to hand over to all these beautiful ladies on my left and ask them to just introduce themselves. Where do they come from? What is it that they're currently doing? Hold on a sec.
Does it work? Yes. Okay.
That works.
Thank you, Tracy. It's good to be here. I'm Hayden Hainsworth. I'm based in Seattle, Washington, Microsoft headquarters. I'm in our Cloud and Enterprise Security Engineering division, and I'm thrilled to be back in South Africa for my second year in a row.
Exciting.
Hi everybody, thank you Tracy. I'm Zenobia, I'm from Stellenbosch University. I'm one of the new directors responsible for architecture, security, project management, end user services. I initially started off not knowing what I wanted to do, but now I ended up being a qualified engineer, being inspired by one of my previous senior directors to go and do my MBA. He just asked me, are you going to do it? And I said, why not? And then I'm now enrolled for my PhD in education.
That's exciting. Yay.
I'm Roshan Harneker. I'm from the University of Cape Town. I'm the Senior Manager for Information and Cybersecurity Services. We look after the InfoSec function, the Computer Security Incident Response team, and the Digital Forensics and Forensics Readiness component of what the university needs. So I've been a technophile since I was about 13 when I got my first computer, and I had my own home lab until I decided I didn't have time for that because it was cutting into my gaming time. And that's kind of my background at the moment.
Did you say digital forensics?
I did.
Doesn't that sound like super exciting? What does that mean?
So forensics, well, digital forensics particularly is about, it really means for a court of law. So what happens is that you're tasked with looking at digital information with a view to either proving or disproving that a crime was or wasn't committed on the media that you're given. But you have to do it in a very forensic manner, and that entails lots of process procedure and quite a bit of paperwork as well, because ultimately what you do has to be defensible in a court. So you're looking at a range of crimes, but committed digitally.
I think that's obviously very necessary in today's world to take care of things like that as well, and necessary evil, I suppose. It's one of those jobs that you don't want to do, but you have to do it. So just a question while I'm thinking like that, is that if I had to think of an auditor in a company, so if someone's an auditor, I'm automatically kind of a little bit negative towards them. I don't know, even before I meet them, or like everyone that works at SARS. I'm just saying. Do you have any of that? So the type of work that you do you experience any negativity towards you as a person because of the role that you play in that? I'm just wondering.
At times, yeah, there is quite a bit of negativity, but there's also negativity towards anybody who's doing InfoSec, because ultimately you're that irritating chihuahua at somebody's ankle saying, you shouldn't be doing that.
Hashtag irritating chihuahua, sorry.
Because you're contravening policy X, Y, Z and law A, B, and C. So nobody wants to hear that, but there has to be a degree of compliance and governance ultimately, and those are things I don't quite enjoy. I prefer dealing and delving into the technical aspects of the job, but because of the role I'm in, I need to wear both hats.
I definitely think the same goes for compliance roles or anything like that. It's just stuff that you don't want to do, but you have to deal with it. So my hat's off to you to be in a job like that, because I just do the fluffy, nice stuff that everyone likes. So I'm lucky with that. So I'd like to know just a little bit more. I think obviously our topic is diversity, and I think that could be an interesting way how people perceive that. So if I had to say diversity, what comes to mind? What is it that you think that means? What does that include?
It includes diversity of thought, diversity of experiences, diversity of gender, diversity of race, diversity just around the world, really.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not one pivot point, it's all of it.
It's definitely all of it, and I think what happens is having discussions with people, the first thing they think is that it's women in IT. But it actually isn't just women in IT. Diversity doesn't mean that. It's so much bigger than that. So I think from your side, what would you like to add on that? I mean, of course, you've added everything, but to kind of expand a bit on that, just to say that we fully understand really. Because if you don't understand the concept, I think then it's difficult to know whether you're doing the right thing.
I think just to add on to Hayden is to say that if you take age into account, and especially in the world that we're living in, seeing that everything is moving so fast and in the technology world, if you've got a team with millennials and you've got a team of someone who's almost retiring, thinking of compliance and everything else that you have to look at, the diversity of your team will either enable or trip your company in the rate of adoption of technology. So if you have people in your team who is not willing to adapt and who's not used to the technology that they are using, it can actually be very uncomfortable for your company because it will affect your agility in project management. And if people don't change their work ethics, and especially if they're not used to the technology, and the diversity comes into that play there as well.
Well, it's very hard to top those two answers, so I'm just going to add a little 2 cents to it, hopefully. Well, for me, diversity won't ever work, and this is quite key, unless it's driven from the top. Because if your top management structure, your executives, your whoever's, don't actually buy into the concept of why it's important, and rather, include diversity as a tick box exercise. For instance, in South Africa, diversity is also synonymous with employment equity and transformation, as it should be. But the key bit is, don't employ people who aren't a good fit for your organization. Don't employ people to tick a box and say, well, I did my little bit for affirmative action or employment equity. You actually need to, as senior managers or directors or executive directors, understand that why diversity is important, and you need to be able to live the values of why it's important, so that the rest of the structure that's actually looking to you for direction buys into it, to trust that you do believe in it, and it filters down a lot more easily. And fit is actually a really important part of diversity, but at the same time, diversity is all about our differences, our gender differences, our age differences, our cultural differences, our mindset differences. And I find that when we all think the same, nothing changes. And technology is something that's constantly changing, and it makes people incredibly uncomfortable, especially people who are used to working in an organization in a very specific way, and things mustn't change. So anyway, that's about all I have to say about it.
Well, I think it's a wonderful addition. So while she was talking, it reminded me of the stuff that I deal with every day. It's culture change, and whether that culture change is technology or whether it's people behavior. So exactly that same concept is to say that. So when I go to companies and I try and help them with the user adoption, I'm saying, if I can't put the exec team on Microsoft Teams first, then we're not going to do this. I will not train people if the top layer of management is not using the technology. And that's exactly the same concept as to what you said, is that we don't get those guys to lead by example and to believe in it, and it's not just a tick box, because a lot of places are doing things as tick boxes, then what's the point behind that? So I think that's quite important. But just again, and I mean, if I had to think of examples, because it's such a big word, but do we really understand what that means? I mean, if I had to say that, okay, so a young guy of 22 can't become senior management, that's going against diversity, right? Because it's an age thing. If I'm saying that a girl can't ride the trucks, no, it's a man's job, that's going against diversity. So it's so much bigger than that, but it's also that culture and that experience that we bring to it. For me, it's so much bigger than that hard line of gender or age, because even if I had to look at the four of us, we're all female, right? We're all completely different. The four of us all have the most amazing attributes to add to a project or to a client, and most of us would add different projects that you would expect from our gender, our age, or whatever, because we formed the way we are because of what we've done and where we've been. So even if we had to get picked as females, I might deliver different attributes. I might be a bit more, I don't know, aggressive because I ride motorbikes, But I mean, that's exactly what I'm trying to say, is that it's allowing people to be who they are and not to fit into a category, I suppose, if that's the interesting thing, I suppose, on there. If I think of role models and people that's kind of gone through this and that's really stood up to try and make this work, do you guys have specific role models that are important to you, people that you look up to in the industry? Anyone?
Not in the industry specifically, and I know this is going to sound incredibly corny, and I just don't care, but my role model has always been my late father.
Who?
My father.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So, Dad.
Yeah. So the thing about my father is that he instilled this desire in me to learn from a very young age, and I hated it at the time, but I was 3 years old and I could speak 3 languages and write in them. And I was always doing the next year's homework at the end of the year, hating every second of it because he wanted me to be prepared for the next school year. But there's something else he instilled in me which was really important, and so this is a bit of a life story that I don't often share. I was living in London, I was 23 years old and I was completely miserable. I'd moved in with my best friend, and as it turned out, you could be best friends but you couldn't necessarily live together. So I phoned him. It's the only phone call I ever made to him while I actually lived overseas, and I said to him, I'm in a quandary. This living arrangement is not working out, and I don't know what to do because I agreed to a lease of however many months and I really want to leave now. And he said to me, well, you have a few choices. You can leave now, or you can rent another place and continue to pay your rent. But remember, whatever you choose to do, if you leave now and renege on the verbal agreement you made, you lose your integrity. And you're the only person who can cause yourself to lose it. And once it's gone, it's gone. You're not getting it back. Needless to say, he knew what I would do. I'd pay rent in 2 places till the lease was up. But the lessons, and as many pounds as they cost me, and believe me, it was freaking expensive at the time, and it probably still would be, it's something that stayed with me, that it is actually easier to have integrity and tell the truth all the time and have truth of your convictions than it is to remember a multitude of half stories. But moreover, that, you run the risk of being disingenuous by talking about integrity because, well, what are you trying to hide and obfuscate? But the thing is, when you have it, it's very evident to everybody else, and it's a lot easier for them to trust that as a manager, for example, they can trust in your leadership and your mentorship for their team.
That is a cool story.
I would actually just like to add on to what you said, because I also have non-controversial role models. I'm a mother of a 4-year-old and a 10-year-old, and I always ask myself, if my children should look at me and I need to see what they see, what kind of role model would they want? What kind of legacy would I want to leave behind for them? Because when their eyes tear up, they look to you as a mother to have all the answers, to know exactly what to say, how to say it, when to say it. And when you look to your team and you don't know what kind of people they are, what values they have, what motivates them, you will never know how to motivate them. You will never know how to get the best out of that person if you don't know how to really get to the point where it makes their heart beat faster. So my children are my role models, because when I look at them, I just say, one day they need to look up to say, that's who I want to be. And I was lucky enough to have managers who would ask me about integrity. And I know that, just like Roshan, I can say that people know me for my integrity. They're able to trust me. I am not one of those who would not go and make a cup of coffee for a colleague. When I even got this position, one of my colleagues gave me a cup that said, work hard and stay humble.
That's difficult to beat.
Yeah, I have had a lot of men who have been my role models. We need more women to be role models. There aren't that many out there. You know, Sheryl Sandberg's out there, but we need a lot more of her. But I just want to thank all the men who have endorsed me, supported me, sponsored me along the way, because they've served as my role models.
Absolutely, I agree. I was just remembering you that has this crazy memory, don't you? You've got a serious memory. It's tough remembering bad things that's happened to you in the road that we've traveled, isn't it? I suppose. But luckily you're honest, and I think. But the honesty and being humble and being straight, I think, helped us a long way. I mean, sometimes it doesn't serve you at that time in your career. Sometimes it goes against what you want to achieve, I think, but it definitely helps a long way just to be who you are and to have your values. If you could look back, because of course we come from an interesting past where things just wasn't that easy for a lot of people, okay? And if you have to look back at your lives, do you ladies have a specific advice or something to cling on to, something that you've held on to over the last couple of years that kind of helps you go back to your road?
I've learned how to accelerate through adversity, right? I mean, as a child, I escaped a war in the Middle East. I put myself through university. I've had several adverse circumstances happen in my life. I have never let one of them hold me back. You know, I paid my way through university. I worked 4 jobs, but I'm now in this place where that story that worked for me then isn't working for me now, and I'm realizing that. And so the world doesn't have to be friend or foe. The world, I can choose to look for all the good, or I can see the difficult parts. And in my world, I'm in cybersecurity, and of course it's perfect because I had a challenge with physical security, and now I see all of the potential bad actors, and I want to help protect enterprises. But I do also want to shift my thinking and my focus, and focus more on the positive as opposed to accelerating through adversity. So I think there is this old adage that what got you here won't get you there, and I'm conscious of that now, and consciously changing that focus and that lens by which I see the future as opposed to the past.
I like that, and I think, again, same goes for technology. I think this is just the way my brain works, because if the old ways worked, we'd still be on Windows XP. Yeah. We'd still be on XP, so obviously we all have to evolve. I think there's something I'd like to just share with you, and I just want to get, I don't think there'll be a lot, but I know Anna is one. Is there anyone else sitting here that's not from South Africa? Or so I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or maybe if I have to take it Africa then, so out of Africa, out of continent as well? Okay. This is something that reminded me so much of this when I started looking at this panel discussion, and that one thing that this meant to me, and what should this be, is the word Ubuntu. Who knows what that means? The word Ubuntu. So there's of course a lot of meanings. You can go read up a lot of stuff, but one of the definitions that I found was a couple of years ago. We looked at it, and Ubuntu means I am who I am because of who we all are. I mean, how incredible is that? Which means that I can only be as good as all the components that you guys add to the project that I'm on, or the team that I work in, or the department that I work in. And that's what diversity means to me. It's your great sparkling personality. It's your ability to remember everything. It's your ability to be humble and to have a soft side to it. these are the things. It's not, for me, it's attributes. For me, it's attributes that we add to each other and to, I mean, it's about surrounding yourself with the people that are good at the things that you suck at. I think that's diversity, okay? I think that really works for me. So that's just something I really wanted to leave with you guys. If, again, just looking at that, I want to ask a question that's wasn't part of our question, so I'm going to like bowl them with something. When I talk about attributes, and I was talking now saying that I am who I am because of who we all are. If I talk about attributes, I think about soft skills. I think about the skills we bring into our workplace. And a lot of times skills are also aligned with gender. Some genders have specific skills, maybe more creative or more assertive. What is your take on soft skills when it comes to diversity? Does that play a role? And not everyone has to answer. Anyone that might have an idea on this?
I think it plays a very important role. From time to time, my saying is, people remember how you make them feel. And don't be a victim of your own circumstances. When you are able to listen to the stories of individuals, but listen to the things they are telling you without saying what they're telling you, that's where emotional intelligence comes in. That's when you're able to get the most out of the person and help them to empower themselves. And if you don't have that skill as a manager, you will suffer. It will be very, very difficult to change old methods, old ways of doing things, if you don't know what to say to that person to inspire them.
So I agree with that. For me, there's a bit of a mix when it comes especially to a technical management role, since we are talking about diversity and tech. So for certain people, it's definitely really important that you have the soft skills and the EQ to be able to deal with the diverse number of people you work with, because remember, they all have different personalities and their own different quirks, and they're having to put up with you. But they also forget at times that there's only one of you and probably around 20 of them. But what I found is that it takes a little time, but it's figuring out which are the ones who actually benefit from the softer skills and the type of encouragement that you need, and which are the ones that are just, they just want to be left alone in a windowless room like me in my 20s to just go and get on with their job and interact with the computer, because that's the only thing they really love and the only thing that understands them. But it's actually knowing the difference between your teammates and remembering that your teammates, they might report to you as a matter of procedure, but you're all this one team that have these central aims that you all have to achieve for whatever organization you work for. So for me, it's a bit of a mix. It's knowing when to use your EQ and when not to, and when to just be practical and logical and leave grumpy me, usually, alone to go and do whatever they need to do.
So maybe diversity is a little bit of balance as well. If I can look at the audience, because we are going to start wrapping up, has anyone got something to add about diversity, or an opinion, or maybe a quote they want to leave us with? Some advice you want to put out there, because you know that once it's said, yeah, it's permanent because it goes on Facebook. Anyone would like to add something or ask something? So I think a final word, if it's like one of those time capsule things, if you could put a piece of paper into a time capsule for the younger you or the 100 years from now you, what is that thing you'd like to leave? It might be a favorite quote or something to remember, to stick by, or something like that. I'm just wondering, because isn't this all about inspiring? Because this is not a female thing, remember, it's not a gender thing. We all receive non-diverse treatment for some odd, strange other reason, whether it's age or gender or whatever it is. We all are subject to these things. And what is that? And sometimes we just need to hear that thing, that it is going to be okay and we can get there or something. So is there something you'd like to add?
So I would just say, I tend to live in the past or the future, not in the present. And so I'm consciously focusing on living in the present and living now, enjoying the moments now. and letting go of that inner voice that a lot of women have. The men might have it too, but I think the women's voices are a little stronger in this department. But letting go of that inner voice and just doing the best that you can and enjoying today and doing your very best.
That's perfect.
So I think the only thing I'd want to end with is that, and it's a bit of it's continuation from something I said a little earlier. It's to remember that when you manage a team, that team can happily exist without you for quite a long time, especially if they're just doing normal operational work and don't need a heck of a lot of direction. But you don't exist as a manager. Your role doesn't exist without them. So, it's in a lot of organizations, management is hierarchical and there's always a pecking order. And I found that I once accomplished quite a lot of work for the university in a team where absolutely nobody had more say than the other. We worked so much better because we had a flat structure and everybody had an equal voice and everybody's opinion was equally valued. So remember that about your teams, if any of you are managers, is that remember they're the experts in the area, you're just there to steer the ship. You might be an expert in your own right, but you hired them because they were best of breed when you were doing your recruiting. And to give them a voice and give them the trust to actually let go, let them manage and let them work, and you'll see they flourish.
I think for me, it's adding on to what she said, there's this little voice inside your head that keeps on telling yourself, you're not good enough, you will fail. But it's actually to take that step and take that challenge to believe in yourself. And to add on to the team thing, for me, I always say, treat others the way you want to be treated. Because then, whatever you do, that person will always give their best. So believe in yourself, no matter what comes your way, believe in yourself.
Cool, thank you very much. I think I'm going to leave you with something as well, because of course they picked the wrong person as a moderator. and this is not to the girls out there, it's to everyone out there, and it's whether you're young or you're old. I turned 43 in a couple of days' time, and for about, I know. Now I'll take money, sweetie. We'll discuss it afterwards. I got motorbikes to buy. Okay, so for at least, 25 years or that or more, I put myself second because of my self-esteem. If there was me and someone else, I don't care if it was someone older or younger or male, female, doesn't matter. I used to step back and let them take it because I had such a low self-esteem. So all I can leave you with is be very careful that you don't exclude yourself as not to be part of diversity because of your low self-esteem. We all deserve to stand up and take our spot. So go do a self-check as well and say, maybe I just need a bit of a boost and figure out my self-esteem, because maybe the past has caused me to always stand back and let someone else take it. I did it for years. It took me years and years to realize that I excluded myself most of the time. So go and do that as well. Be very careful. Make sure that your self-esteem is looked after, because that's actually what I meant with the soft skills as well, is that we have a lot of attributes that we have to build up as well, and that's very important for me. Thank you very, very much, everyone. Thank you so much, Anna. Thank you for the opportunity, and I hope you have a rock-kicking concert conference further.